Welcome to 'Cause We're Nerds, the podcast that covers trends and new releases in comics, movies, video games, board games, and much more. I'm your host Caleb, and today we're battling it out in the Contest of Champions. Which heroes will we pit against each other? What crazy scenarios will they be placed in? And who will take the crown? Find out on this week's episode of 'Cause We're Nerds. Welcome back, Zach!
It's always good to be back. Zach Smash.
Man, that could mean many things.
Well,
how you been?
We will be talking about the Incredible Hulk today, so I have been great. I've been doing some research on different heroes, reading a lot of comics recently, which has been fantastic.
Awesome.
In the sense of four. Ooh.
Oh, fantastic.
Oh, yes.
Awesome.
But no, it's been busy, it's been full, but it's been great, and I'm ready to dive into the Contest of the Champions.
All right, Zach, so tell us what we're actually going to be doing today.
All right, so are you familiar with the comic series Contest of Champions?
Yes, I am. I haven't read the original. I've read the sequel, Contest of Champions 2, which I'm pretty sure I actually bought from you.
All right, yeah, so that was kind of a trick question because there have actually been 3 comic series labeled Contest of Champions. The original was Marvel Superhero Contest of Champions. It came out in 1982, and it was just a 3-issue series. It's actually pretty interesting. Up until that point, you would have some heroes battling heroes, but this kind of combined a whole slew of heroes that had never been together. Like at one point, Ant-Man is standing on the shoulders of Namor. So it's like stuff like that, that you wouldn't really think of at that time period.
Was that before or after the original Secret Wars? Do you know?
I don't know.
What year was that?
It was 1982 is when the 3 issues came out.
1982. All right, I'm going to look up Secret Wars real quick. Hold on.
Time for a Wikipedia search.
Okay, so yeah, Secret Wars was in 84, so this would have been one of the first big crossovers.
Yeah, it was. It was one of the big crossovers. It was really interesting. I mean, the premise of this comic is that these 2 powerful entities, so there was Grandmaster and another hooded figure, which is later revealed to be Death. And trust me, it is no reveal whatsoever. Like, when they first appear, it's obvious it's the Grandmaster. He states his name, and he's like, another powerful being that I have no idea who it is under this dark purple hooded cloak. And like in the first comic panel I saw that, I'm like, oh, it's Death. And then throughout the whole 3 issues, the heroes are like, who is that mysterious person? Who could it be? And then they have this huge reveal in the 3rd comic where I believe it's the Invisible Girl. It's Invisible Woman, but at that time, she's called the Invisible Girl. Pulls off the hood and she's like, oh no, it's Death. And Death's like, nobody saw this coming. And I'm like, I did in the 1st issue. It's obvious.
Well, was that been maybe the first reveal of Death in the comics?
I don't think so, no. And when you look back at it too, this must have been after another large event because the Grandmaster, the whole idea is that the Grandmaster wants to revive his brother, the Collector. And his brother had died in a terrible incident, but it looked like a gauntlet had gone through his body, as in like a beam from a gauntlet.
Like an infinity gauntlet?
Yeah, like a little snap. But yeah, because, and I don't know a lot of where this lines up then, because the Grandmaster mentions that everybody was restored back to the way they were except his brother. So that's where I'm thinking there is another large event, but nothing's, I'm not sure where it lines up then.
Was the Infinity Crusade and Infinity War was after Gauntlet, wasn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
That I do know, but I'm not sure then where those line up compared to 1982. I'm assuming then one of them was, all of them were potentially before, maybe in the 1978, 1980s?
Yeah, because Infinity Gauntlet wasn't until 91.
Yeah. So I'm not sure, but it does mention some sort of event. It could have happened in the Avengers or somewhere else. Anyway, so that's the first comic, 3 issues, and there's some fights in there. It's kind of odd, kind of racist, to be honest. But that is because, like they try to make it worldly. So for example, they have like Angel versus, I don't even know his name, but he's basically the French Angel. So it's very stereotypical. They have like in one of the scenes, they have Captain Britain and he's fighting somebody called the Arabian Knight. And of course it's somebody from the Mideast, right? And so his superhero is he wears a turban on top of his head, but like a fortune telling type turban, and he rides a magic carpet. Wow. And then him and like the Israeli called Sabra like pick a fight, and they're like, I would never ally with you, and the other one's like, I would cut off your head before I'd ally with you. It's like, okay. Yeah. And then of course, I mean, it's pretty dated because at one point too, I can't remember who is fighting this. I think it's Sunfire versus Darkstar. And the guy is like, how can I be defeated by a mere woman? Oh. Yeah, so, it's pretty outdated, but it's interesting, to say the least. I think the more interesting one's the second comic series that comes after that. So I mentioned there's 3. That was the first. The second one, which you have read, Caleb, is Contest of Champions 2.
Yeah, it's been... Oh, man. I was in high school when I read that. So... It's probably been 8 years since I've read that.
Okay, yeah, it came out in 1999. It was a 5-issue series. This one, I grew up reading this as well, Caleb. I think I might have been maybe in junior high when I read it. I really enjoyed it. Apparently, when this comic issue was going on, you can see in the ads that it says vote for winners. So there must have been some type of, going online to Marvel and voting who would win.
Well, not online at that point. It would have been mail-in.
No. They said go to marvel.com to
really?
Vote.
In 99?
In 1999, I know. So I don't know what type of website it would have been, but...
Terrible. I know websites from 99 and they are not good.
And then the last comic series was Contest of Champions, which was a 10 issue. So it went from 3 to 5 to 10 now. And that came out in 2015. That one I haven't read. It's more in the vein of the first one where I'm pretty sure it's the Grandmaster versus somebody else, and they each pick a kind of team of heroes to basically retrieve stones, and they're each like 3 heroes of this 12-person team are each teleported to a section of the Earth or world or universe or whatever.
I'm pretty sure that was part of the Secret Wars story that year, right?
It was actually after. So you are correct. It took place kind of during, but a little bit after the Secret Wars. So like if you read a summary of it, it says after the events and after the aftermath of Secret Wars, this happens. It was actually more heavily tied into the video game, which is why I haven't really read it. Basically, it was kind of a marketing stunt, to be honest, is that they wanted to release some new characters such as Venom into the video game. And they said, well, what if we do a comic that links it to the video game? Because, there's that huge mobile video game, Contest of Champions. And so they did it sort of as a marketing stunt. So I don't know if it's a great comic at all. Apparently you get more out of it if you played the video game, which I haven't. And so I will get around to reading it. But as far as today goes, we will just be focusing on more number 1 and heavily on number 2.
Okay, cool. It is probably worth noting that this has made its way into the MCU too. This is the contest that we saw Thor and Hulk in during Thor Ragnarok.
That's right. Yep. Remember, go back to our podcast and we talked a little bit about this as well, is that they dropped that one-liner, the Contest of Champions, which was an homage to this series.
Yeah, and of course, you had Jeff Goldblum playing the Grandmaster in that movie. So if you're interested in that, you should go back and check out that episode.
Sorry, my wife is calling. Wife, I am recording. I need to hang up.
You're not going to believe what they're building in the parking lot of the Roseville Mall.
She is calling me about a building.
Oh, we can hear her.
Portillo's.
They are building a Chicago restaurant near me.
Woohoo!
No, where we used to live.
Say hi.
Move.
Say hi to our audiences.
Goodbye.
That's her hello.
that's gonna end up being the Stanley cameo of our podcast.
Michaela is the Stanley of our podcast, let's be honest. All right, so Caleb, on to the Contest of Champions. So what I thought we would do is I thought we would go through some of the battles in Contest of Champions 1 and Contest of Champions 2 and talk a little bit about them. Are you ready for the ground rules of this engagement?
All right, let's go.
All right, so what's happened is since I've recently read both comics, I went through and picked kind of the most interesting fights, making sure not to ever double up on any of the heroes. And the ground rules are that we will choose 3 battles from the first comic series and 6 from the later comic series. As far as kind of how we talk about the battles, let's presume that each battle takes place in New York. New York. Sounds right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Let's presume that we're going for a knockout where you can harm the other hero but not kill them.
Okay.
And when I read off the heroes, you will be the first hero and I will be the second hero being named. And I completely randomized it, so I did not stack the deck for myself.
So are we like acting as our character then?
Sort of. So what we're going to do is, here's how the battle will take place. I will read off the heroes, and kind of like our 2 episodes ago, my last episode I was on, we will talk about the approach our hero will take to defeat the other hero. So kind of like a D&D role-playing style.
Okay.
So we can just mention that. Then we will step out of that and just talk about the fight in general. So that's where we can kind of comment on each other's heroes and just discuss it in general. And then lastly, I will reveal who actually won in the comics. And if I can remember, I will reveal how they won as well.
Okay, interesting. Let's go.
All right. So starting off with Contest of Champions, how this comic was kind of built. I already explained a little bit about it, but Grandmaster and Death each chose 12 heroes, and each hero was split off into a team of 3 and put on one portion of the globe to look for like a magical crystal, and whichever team kind of came back with the most amount of crystals was victorious. So I had to skip a lot of these battles because it was people we've never heard of it, like Talisman, Sabra, the Angel versus the French Angel. So
Yeah, I was a little concerned about that.
But there are 3 iconic fights that are in that first issue. So the first fight is Iron Fist versus Daredevil.
Oh. Okay.
So I'm thinking, as Daredevil, I would probably try to stay up somewhat high. I feel like that Daredevil has the nimbleness and the agility. Danny Rand does as well, but I would try to stay on rooftops and probably make my way to the Devil's Kitchen side of New York.
Okay, sure. Well, Iron Fist would just let you do that and probably follow you. Probably even on the street. He probably wouldn't even bother going up to the tops of the buildings.
No, and that would make sense. But with my height advantage, and my sensory advantage, I feel like I would be able to get the drop on you pretty quickly. And try to outmaneuver you and just close the gap. Neither of us have range, so I would just go in for a quick kill.
Sure, and I think you might even hook me with your baton
belly
nunchuck
hook
thingies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I have the power of the Iron Fist, and while you are technically a ninja, I am like a ninja with superpowers. So I think that I could probably get free of whatever trap you're trying to get me in and maybe land a glancing blow. I probably not like a solid blow.
I could probably see that landing I would say even more than a glancing blow, something that would, make me fly a few feet maybe. And that would alert me. Obviously, I know who you were, right? But that would alert me then, I believe, to understand more of your power as Daredevil and pick on some sense. I think as Daredevil, I can sense your energy, right? So when you power up your Iron Fist, kind of sense, okay, he is going for that powerful blow so that next time I'm more agile. And I think as far as hand-to-hand combat comes in, we are pretty evenly matched.
Yeah,
however,
I agree.
You have more power, but I have more agility, like a sensory, not a spider sense, but obviously, with my powers, I'm able to kind of sense what's going on. So I think this would be a pretty gritty, pretty close combat.
Are we assuming that these two people don't know each other?
I think we can assume they do know each other.
Okay, so I would know what you can do, and you would know what I can do. So, yeah, I kind of see this as ending up with a tie, really. I don't know. Go ahead.
You know, I would agree. I think it would almost end in a tie, and it would just really depend on who is able to land that blow. I think Daredevil is able to match Iron Fist. I mean, I've been trained by stick, depending on which iteration of the hand. By a stick.
There's this really sweet stick.
By a stick and a hand.
Right.
Both a stick and a hand have trained me.
It was a hand holding a stick. It is like, hey man, you want to fight?
No. Right. And so I think I would be able to get around you. What I would try to probably do is wrap my billy hook and choke you until you pass out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Is that what his weapon's called?
I can't remember. That's what I feel like it was called in that issue. He mentioned it, and somebody else. That's how we got the prize in the issue. Is Daredevil actually ended up grabbing he was able to like billy hook it, and the Invisible Girl was like, "No, I can't reach it."
Yeah, that's kind of like the only thing I can think of. And I mean, if Iron Fist was able to get his hand in between that, where he's trying to choke me out, he could probably break that, which would render it useless, but that's a really big if. I think Daredevil could probably get it around my neck without me being able to stop him.
And that's why I think Daredevil, in my sense, would win this fight.
All right, so here's a real question. Marvel Netflix, Iron Fist versus Daredevil. No. Who wins?
Here's the real question. If they even had that as a title of a TV show, would anybody still watch it?
Yeah.
Daredevil for sure, though.
Yeah, that's not even a contest.
No, not even a contest. Well, in the Contest of Champions comic, the winner is Daredevil. He actually does beat Iron Fist, and I believe that's actually how he beats him. They both are trying to fight each other out, and Daredevil does something like where he chokes him out or he knocks him unconscious, but it's using the tool of his, which Iron Fist does not have.
Yeah, because Iron Fist also doesn't have any protection.
Exactly, right? So they're pretty evenly matched, except I think Daredevil just has the slight edge.
Yeah.
All right, the next contest, and it happens, I think, in the next round, is Iron Man versus She-Hulk.
Okay. These are very interesting matchups.
They are, right? They're not maybe what you would think of. It's kind of a random matchup. I mean, I think at first glance, you look at this, you would say Iron Man wins. But as She-Hulk, I mean, what I would do is I would get in a rage, right? And so it would take more than just like a simple rocket to knock me out. I'm not as powerful as the Hulk, obviously, but I'm not just going to be wiped out by some simple, fire, or lasers or whatnot. So what I would probably do is I would make my way into like some type of parking garage, or kind of like a skyscraper. So to limit your flight abilities.
Okay. So I'm not super up on what She-Hulk's powers actually are, except for the parts that are the same as the Hulk. Is there anything else she has?
The parts that are different from the Hulk.
Nice.
Yeah. No, it depends. See, so when we're talking about these, it also depends on the iteration, right? I mean, which mark are you flying in? That could vary the battle substantially. And which She-Hulk are we talking about? Are we talking about the more elegant, maybe weaker She-Hulk in these 1982 comics? Or are we talking about the 2018 kind of relaunch of the Avengers where She-Hulk is basically just the Hulk? Like, she is the Hulk.
Another phone call?
Another phone call. I guess I'm popular today. But I would say I guess as we're talking about these, just think of like the basic character, just kind of baseline who they are, right?
Okay.
Just like the average. So when we're talking about the average of She-Hulk, I would say She-Hulk basically has all the powers of Hulk, doesn't really have anything more. She is just less strong. I would say where she lacks in strength, she makes up with her brains. She is pretty smart. I mean, she's a lawyer, so she's pretty smart. And she also matches with agility. So she's quicker and speedier than the Hulk would be.
True. So if you try to lure me into a building or a parking garage, I think I would take a hint from the movies, actually, and evacuate the building and then maybe just try to bring it down on you, because you're not as durable as the Hulk, and I think that would probably knock you out. And if not, if I have access to some of my other suits, I would probably just call in the Hulkbuster suit and take you out that way.
That's smart. I could see the battle going that way. I could see you trying to, I go into the parking garage, you basically blast the foundations. I mean, as She-Hulk, I'm still fairly durable, so I would just start jumping through the floors and then kind of like burst out of a window when you're unexpecting it and like tackle you like midair, if that makes sense, like jump from building. And I could probably land a pretty substantial blow on your armor, but yeah, seeing that you would call in the Hulkbuster outfit, would we go hand to hand? Would you join me then in hand-to-hand combat?
Yeah, I think probably what I would end up doing is after you land your blow and you kind of get some distance, I would open up a barrage of missiles and kind of let them go in and let the smoke stir up, and then kind of rush in when you can't see me to try to get some quick jabs in before you're able to defend yourself.
Oh, sure. And I would grab a car or piece of concrete to block those missiles, but evidently one would land. Smoke would happen and decrease visibility. I think what I would do is then, as I would try to dodge your blows, unlike Hulk just taking them, I would try to dodge some of them, and thinking about where you're weak, I would try to analyze your armor and start maybe trying to tear some of it off, or trying to punch right in your main body chest area to get to the real Iron Man, right? Break through that armor. And I would probably try to be pummeling you as you try to pummel me again. And I think I would get pretty close, but how would you try to take me out if I did that?
See, I'm pretty sure as Iron Man, I would just start taking cheap shots.
Sure.
So, like, if you were a dude, I'd, kick you in the junk. As a female, I don't know what I can do. Pull your hair or something stupid. Like, I shouldn't be doing in a fight. But I'd probably just do that to try to do anything I could to gain an upper hand. And then, it super depends on the type of suit I'm in. Because, like, the traditional Hulkbuster is just a suit. But if I'm in, like, a bleeding edge Hulkbuster suit, or, like, his newest suit, or it's probably not even his newest suit anymore, where he can kind of form pieces out of it, that could really help. I mean, I don't think I would go so far as to stab you, but I think that maybe if you throw anything at me, I would catch it as well, being in the Hulkbuster suit, and I would maybe try to smash you with that and continually pummel you. But
and I could see that too. I mean, like, as She-Hulk, I could see me, like, I would throw a car at you, you would catch it, but by the time you caught it, like, unlike the Hulk, I wouldn't just stand there. Like, I would rush you and, like, tackle you again, right?
Yeah.
As you did that. But, I think I would be able to at least decrease your power armor, but the power of your armor, I would decrease kind of the survivability of the armor. It would definitely be dented. Red lights would be flashing, but I think all in all, you would be able to either outwit, outlast, or just out-endure She-Hulk.
I agree. It's kind of hard to talk through a fight like that because it's just a lot of punching. But I think with Tony Stark and his armor and his intelligence, even though She-Hulk is pretty smart, she's not a rocket scientist, and Tony is.
Exactly. And in the comics, Iron Man wins. This is actually the quickest battle out of all of them. He simply flies behind her and tases her, and she falls. That's about it. Yeah. It's like not even one panel. I think it's,
nice.
Half a panel. It's super short. Yeah, it is. All right. The third battle and the last one from the first issue of the comic. And this is another really interesting one. In the comic, this takes place in the jungle. For our sake, this is going to take place in New York. And it is Wolverine versus the Black Panther.
Okay. So, so we're not face to face, right? Or are we?
No, I would say, as far as New York goes, let's just assume it's been cleared completely. There's no civilians around. And where we start the battle is just like randomly in New York City. And the goal of this contest is we have to hunt each other down to take each other out, like for a KO. Okay.
See, I think I have the edge in this one because Wolverine's sense of smell is incredible. And if we already know each other, which you said we did, I can track you without you really knowing. Maybe you'll see me coming from a distance, but maybe you don't. and I could probably sneak up behind you or maybe from the top of a building and jump off and just nail you with my claws.
See, I actually completely disagree with that. I agree with this. Well, I not completely disagree. I disagree somewhat with that. The sense of smell, correct, but I think T'Challa is incredibly intelligent. He's been on the Illuminati, right?
Yeah, I mean he's super smart.
So he's super smart, right? So I feel like what I would do is trick you with that sense of smell. I would somehow either be able to mask my smell or put my smell somewhere else. So you think you're getting the surprise attack on me when in reality the whole time T'Challa would have been actually stalking you, and I would have been getting the surprise on you. Now I don't think with your sense of smell and just with my sense of, I want to say the jungle, but just my surroundings, I don't think either of us would be able to get the jump on either of us. No matter if it happens your way or my way, I feel it'd be like the last second one of us would turn to catch, right? So my claws would contact your claws, or you would like roll out of the way as like I come in.
So I think what would end up happening is we would continue to fight, and if I'm not able to get a hit in, I think I would realize that, and I would just let you hit me, right? Like if you've got your claws on your fingers, let you hit me. That way it creates an opening for me because I have the healing factor to just go ahead and pummel you because your suit is not made of vibranium like it is in the movies. The comic book suit is just like cloth.
No, and you know what? Knowing that, I probably wouldn't go in for a direct attack on you. I would try to do some sneak attacks, but honestly, I would go for the hit and run. So I would do some sneak attacks and then kind of start running away and being agile on the rooftops, on the walls, in the cityscape, knowing that as a hunter, as one prone to rage, you would get enraged and want to, follow me, hunt me, take me down as quickly as possible. And so in doing that, my goal then would be to do some cat and mouse, run a little, hit you, with the idea of knowing that I can't obviously deal a deadly wound, but I can wear you down.
That's true. Although I think ultimately I would realize what's going on and I would just maybe stay still and kind of keep my energy levels up. And you would kind of come in to keep attacking. But I think ultimately I would get a sense of what you're doing. And I could at least, again, get a glancing blow in there. Maybe not enough to stop you, but enough for you to start bleeding, which is going to make me tracking you even easier.
Again, yeah, I could definitely see that, you getting a blow. But, as I continue to, make marks on you that are obviously getting healed, it's wearing you down. Is that while Wolverine does have that healing factor, he doesn't have unlimited energy, and so I would just honestly play that long game out. And so it depends on how heavy you are able to land a blow. If you're able to land a pretty critical one, then game over, you win. But I think if I'm able to wear you down enough, I can hopefully get behind you, push you off a ledge, do something that'll at least knock you out for a little while.
Mm-hmm. I think that you are also overestimating T'Challa's ability not to become tired and winded, though. I think this would probably end up being a very, very long and drawn out battle, and I think they would both be very, very tired.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think this is one of the closest ones. I mean, Iron Fist and Daredevil, that's hard to beat, but this is also a pretty close combat. I think Wolverine gets it just because of the healing factor. Claws, they both have claws. They're just different. I think T'Challa and Wolverine both have the tracking. I think Black Panther is a lot more agile, has a lot better combat tactics than Wolverine does. Wolverine was trained by the hand, but he's more just aggressive, right, and blunt. But that's because he has that healing factor, so he can heal over time. Mm-hmm. So I think Black Panther could come out with this, but because of the healing factor, it would be very, very difficult.
Yeah, I agree. This is another one of those hard ones, but if I just look at the power scaling, even including the intelligence of Black Panther, I think under certain circumstances, Black Panther could win, especially if he were prepared for the fight up front. But if they just met each other out in the blue, I kind of think Wolverine would take the win.
And in the comics, Wolverine does. He actually does take the win against Black Panther. I can't remember how this works out in the comics. I do remember this is one of the last issues that happens. I want to say that you know what? I do remember. It's in the jungle. Black Panther does get the leap on Wolverine. He's able to tackle him to the ground. They fight kind of in these Mayan ruins. And then Wolverine actually ends up on top of the Black Panther, unleashes his claws, and he's trying to stab T'Challa in the head. And T'Challa has his claws, and he's like resisting it, right? So in no way is T'Challa defeated. Wolverine just has the upper hand, and then I believe the Thing comes in and like kicks Wolverine away, or grabs the jewel and kind of wins. But in that, even Black Panther and Wolverine admit they're like this fight wouldn't be over; it would still drag on. So Wolverine wins in the comics, but it's still kind of even undecided there.
Interesting. Well, Zach, it's actually time to take a break for a second. Do you know why?
Why?
Because it's time for Super Cereal. So,
Ding.
we're bringing back the cereal segment. We did it last week. We did it 2 weeks ago. I'm going to make it a regular thing, whether you like it or not. So,
but I was here 2 weeks ago. We didn't. Okay, we didn't do it. Okay.
Yeah, we did.
No, we didn't.
Yeah, we did it in the middle. It was a Batman.
No.
Yeah.
100%.
I didn't have a name for it, but we talked about Batman eating cereal. Go back and listen to it. It's there. Anyway.
we talk about it, but we didn't call it a super cereal segment.
Oh, I know. I'm making it one. This is the first one.
Got it.
So, this week, I thought I'd pull out an interesting one. Taskmaster. What does Taskmaster eat for breakfast?
Children.
Yep, that pretty much that's pretty much it. Yeah. No, man, I don't know. I don't actually think he eats cereal. I think he would eat like
he would eat
like granola bar.
Yeah, I was just gonna say granola is probably maybe some oatmeal. I could see him an oatmeal guy.
Or I could see him eating like MREs.
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
he definitely would not be a cereal guy. I mean, if he had to, it would be like an ultra healthy kind of bland cereal. Yeah. Or something like just like Chex, I'm going to eat this so I can move on.
Yeah. No frills, just like some kind of corn based, not sweetened, like a Kix or like a, Corn Flakes or something like that.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Or like maybe like a Raisin Bran, whatever it's called.
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's been Super Cereal.
So that ends our Contest of Champions 3 battles, talking about the first issue. But now we jump into Contest of Champions 2. So right now, we decided what Daredevil won, but Iron Man and Wolverine won. So that's Zach 1, Caleb 2.
Woo!
All right, so Contest of Champions 2, the first one. I think this is one of the most interesting ones. It is Storm versus Thor.
So I'm Storm.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Probably the very first thing I do is fly up into the middle of the sky so I have a better view of what's around me to try to pinpoint you.
I mean, I think that's pretty good. I would fly up as well to meet you head on and just laugh in your face like the god I am.
Interesting. Well, while you're being super arrogant and just laughing at me, I'd probably try to conjure up some type of tornado, emanating from me, not emanating from the sky. So I'm pushing you away from me.
That's pretty good. But as I get pushed away by this massive tornado, I would only move a few feet as I continue laughing, telling you that I am also the god of the skies, as I would try to rain down lightning and thunder directly onto you and in your path.
Okay, I'm not sure if Storm getting struck by lightning would do anything. In fact,
probably power you up.
I was going to say it might power me up. And so me knowing that you're a god of thunder, I probably wouldn't try to employ the use of lightning because that probably wouldn't hurt you at all. So I might take a different tactic and try to conjure up like a hurricane, maybe something wind based.
Sure.
To try to knock you off balance, get you on the ground, and try to basically remove your hammer from you, because your hammer is pretty much the source of your power.
It is. And you know what? I think that the hurricane would definitely pose a challenge, but I could see me flying, getting knocked down, even getting thrown against some buildings, getting hurt, but kind of fighting through that hurricane to try to make it to you, and actually throwing my hammer at you to try to knock you off balance. And with your agility, I'm sure you might be able to dodge it. You might get nicked, but after I throw my hammer, try to make my way towards you to engage you hand to hand, because I know that I have more strength than you do.
Sure, that's true. But if I'm in the sky and you throw your hammer, you can't fly anymore. So now
depends on which Thor we're talking about. I would say you're talking about the kind of old time Thor. The base Thor, you would just assume that you can.
Actually, I mean, it has changed recently, but for most of his history, he couldn't. Ultimate could.
Well, I'll hang on to my hammer.
Okay, so you keep your hammer. So,
I'll hurl my hammer towards you. So more of a Superman pose, just trying to knock you out.
So you're flying towards me. Okay. Man, this is tough. Okay. So what I would try to do is manipulate the winds and the airways to try to push that hammer back down towards the ground. It probably wouldn't work, but if it did, I would then bring the rains and the storms to try to take the buildings that are around, since everything's emptied, pile them on you. And if I'm able to do that, then maybe try to create some kind of mudslide to fill in all the cracks, just to make it that much harder for you to get out.
I like that. Even if you were able to ground me, I feel like Thor's powers, I would just be able to kind of push the buildings aside. Or even if you were able to solidify some mud on my feet, I could chip that away or crack that away. And you know what I would probably do then is, even though I'm the god of thunder, I would try to use my hammer to create a vortex that would try to suck you down, or at least extinguish the oxygen around you, so that you would either be forced to be grounded as well, or get knocked out because of having no oxygen.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that Thor would probably win using something like that. If this was a lethal fight, what I probably would try to do is use the metal around in the buildings to cut off both of your hands so that you can't call back the hammer.
I mean, I think that would be hard. I mean, Storm could try to manipulate the wind. Depending on which Thor you're talking about, he could also manipulate the wind too.
True.
Right? So I think you're right. Like, as far as like manipulating the weather, Storm has the slight edge, but it's pretty close. But I think Thor's just going to win in this, just because he has the durability, he has his hammer, and he has the strength. So no matter what, he would try to get close. And once he does that, he would be able to defeat Storm.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would be very difficult for Storm to win, and it would probably have to be under some very specific circumstances.
And in the comics, Thor wins. They actually do battle it out, kind of like what we talked about. They have it's one of the most entertaining fights, because they have an elemental fight, right? And so they do wind and lightning and rain and hail and hurricanes. But anyways, they do end up connecting. Storm actually trying to infuse her body with lightning to give her the power to defeat Thor. And Thor actually wins by giving Storm a kiss, and then inhaling all the oxygen that's in her body.
Okay.
So basically suffocating her.
Yeah. Cheap move.
Well, Thor wins, which brings us at 2-2. The next battle, which is all these are just so super interesting. It is Hulk versus Deadpool. So as Captain Deadpool, I would stand in the middle of New York City, Times Square, and somehow have a little plush of the Hulk and just start waving it around and have a knife and start stabbing it and start talking to me like, Hulky, Hulky, time for some stabby, stabby. I would be doing that, just trying to goat you into crushing me as fast as possible.
Okay, so I think we need to figure this out before we go any further. Am I dumb Hulk? Am I kind of a little intelligent Hulk? Or am I fully knowing what I'm doing, Hulk.
Sure. If we're talking about averages, you're average Hulk, right? So you're not stupid, but you're not incredibly intelligent. You're just like...
So I can speak and I know what I'm doing, but I'm not like scientist level.
To an extent, I would say that you can't speak fluid English or like fluid sentences. And you might be a little slower, but you still kind of know what's transpiring and what's going on. Does that make sense?
Okay, so more like the Hulk in the first Avengers movie.
No, I would say more like the Hulk in Thor Ragnarok, right?
Okay,
it's like
okay.
You're still able to speak, you just can't speak fully, and you still know what's kind of going on. You just also act like more of a child, if that
Sure.
makes like that, right?
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
kind of like an 8-year-old.
Okay, so I would hear you or see you, and I would just get a big smile on my face, and I would run and do a massive leap and land straight on you.
And depending on how I feel like that either Deadpool would just take that, just like want that in general, or B, somehow have some type of duplicate. I mean, as Deadpool, what I could see is just trying to take that, like letting you land on me, so that I can get close enough to like stick a grenade down your throat. Like that's like literally the goal is like you land on me and then you like pick me up and I'm kind of flat, but I somehow like am able to retain half my body and like stick a grenade down your throat and then like do a backflip as it explodes.
Okay, so you do that, and it probably really disorients me for a second. Maybe you even get a few cuts in, but I think I recover, and I end up getting more angry. And at this point, I think that I start going into more of a rage.
Sure.
And I am just flailing at you. And if I am able to get you, which I would probably be able to get a hit in eventually, knock you down. If you keep hitting me and keep working me into a rage, I think I would end up basically doing the Juggernaut and taking you and just ripping you in half.
And you know what? As Deadpool, I could see you like hitting me into a building, right? And then coming out and trying to goat you even more. And so you like run at me and then I throw like some flash bombs or some stun grenades so that you like run into a couple buildings and then like they fall down. I think eventually, I would keep up these tricks to tire you out. It wouldn't really work. So I'd have to try to get more hand to hand. So I'd take out my swords and literally just like find a unique time where I am able to jump on your back and stick both swords like straight into your back and just like hold on for dear life. Be like, I'm here for the ride. Want to get some tacos?
Right? Yeah, I'd probably be able to smash the back up against a building and hurt you and then maybe reach back and grab you and pull those swords out very painfully. Which I would either then just throw on the ground, break them, or throw them miles away, where you no longer have access to them. Probably that one, honestly. And then if I could get you, I'd probably grab you by the head and toss you miles away in the opposite direction. Maybe after like breaking your feet, so you can't really come back that quickly.
No, you know what? And I think no matter how this goes, Deadpool would definitely have some ingenuity, but Hulk, no matter what, you're going to be sometime, you're going to rip off a ligament, rip me in half, do something like that, where I'm not going to die, and I could still technically fight, but it's going to be pretty much over.
Yeah, I mean, you would have to go find the other limb and lay beside it for it to grow back, and the amount of time it takes to do that, Hulk would be long gone.
And the Hulk does win this contest, and that's pretty much what happens is Deadpool tries some tricky stuff and Hulk just like pummels him.
Yeah.
That's about it. So that means you have 3 points. I have 2. The next fight is Spider-Man versus Domino.
Oh, okay. So Domino influences odds, correct?
Yes, I have luck on my side. So I'm able to influence odds. Versus Spider-Man, which means I feel like I would be able to get the sneak up on you. I feel like you would be watching the skyline, hanging upside down, doing something, and as Domino, I would, be able to try to drop you, probably somehow by cutting your web line just to see how far you will fall and try to disorient you.
Sure, you could probably get up close and do that. However, right before you do it, my spider sense is going to go off and alert me that something is going on. So it's not going to be by complete surprise. And then as soon as you cut that, I'm going to know exactly where you are. So I'm going to be on the major defensive at that point.
Yeah, you will be. I don't know what I would try to use against you. Maybe some trank guns. I would, knowing who you are, knowing who I am, I would probably try to go like a Craven the Hunter style at you. I don't have the strength that he does, but I would definitely try to use some trank stuff, some traps. I wouldn't get super close, but I would definitely make sure I am staying away from your webbing.
Yeah, I think that's going to be key here is I'm going to be mostly staying at a distance, trying to web you or web your gun or whatever you have, and probably try to pull it away. But based on your luck abilities, most of those, if not all, are probably going to miss. Maybe a bird flies in front of one and then like you duck under another one or something stupid.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see me maybe grabbing my sniper rifle after a while and kind of booking it to try to maybe take this more to a long range where you are, where your webs wouldn't be effective, but I would still be able to take you out.
Mm-hmm. And from my side, if you did that, I would probably try to fight smarter than you. So I would be either in buildings or between buildings where you can't see me. And my spider sense is going to really help me here know when you're about to take a shot.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't be able to hit you. Would you try to close the gap?
Yeah, I think ultimately what would happen is I would see this isn't going anywhere. And I would probably try to sneak up on you. And I think what I would end up trying to do is create a situation where even though you're super lucky, there's not much that would be able to help you with. Like if I could somehow get your gun away from you and get you on the edge of a building, sure, you could fall off and fall into a trash can or something where you don't get hurt, but you no longer have your rifle. And at that point, it's just a case of me web zipping down there, webbing you up or fighting you a little bit and webbing you to a wall.
And I could see that. You would probably get me pretty much cornered, but I feel like that I would have the smarts to know something like this would happen, that I would be able to drop maybe a smoke bomb, a smoke grenade, and maybe even be able to then shoot something at you. And even with your spider sense, with kind of the obscurity of the smoke, with luck as well, be able to land a trank on you, or to hurt you in some way where when I do fall and you're able to get me and web me up, it's almost like a double KO then where I'm like, can't move, but then you're either down or out and, almost like an Iron Fist and Daredevil. I don't know how this would play out. Do you think you have the edge or do you think it's a tie?
I think, it depends on the specifics. I think in this situation, I might have a little bit of an edge, but it's pretty close. If what you said happened where I web you up and then I get tranked or something, I'm going to wake up from a trank a lot faster than a normal person. So maybe that allows me to get up and you're still webbed up. Maybe not, but it is very, very close.
It is, and Domino could really use a lot of tactics. For example, if it was stormy out, I've seen this in a comic panel, I could use luck on my side and odds to make sure that the lightning hits directly on you, right? If there was lightning happening. So I feel like this is very close. I don't know if we could necessarily determine an outcome. In the comics, Spider-Man does win. This is a brief comic. So there are some strips in this Contest of Champions 2 where it's literally just maybe a panel, maybe a 2 or 3, and it shows a winner. It doesn't really show you how they've won. This is kind of one of them. They dance around a little bit, and then Spider-Man just webs Domino's feet and wins.
Yeah, and I think a big factor we didn't really talk about is how lucky is Domino, because that varies wildly between writers, and sometimes it's more like every once in a while she gets lucky, and sometimes it's like Deadpool 2 where she really can't be harmed.
Yeah, I think it does vary. And if you're just talking about the average Domino, yes, I could keep it up. Maybe I could land something on you, but eventually I would run out of luck, and I think you would edge out the win. So I think you have the win on this.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, which means it's 4-2. Wah, wah, wah. Zach's falling behind. All right, so our next battle we have, and we only have 3 more, is Gambit versus Quicksilver. I bet you didn't see that coming.
Wow. You did it. Well, look, when my movie finally comes out...
Yeah. I bet you didn't see that coming.
Right. It won't come out. You saw they set a release date, right?
No.
Yeah, they set another one, 2020.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure.
While we're on the topic, one of the last episodes I said that Dark Phoenix is coming out on Valentine's Day. Well, that was the day it was supposed to come out until the next day after they released the trailer, where they moved it to the summer. So it's now coming out in the summer.
No, I thought I saw the trailer. I thought it still says February.
Yeah, so they released the trailer, which said February, and then the very next day they changed the release date.
Oh, that movie just looks terrible. I'm just going to say it. It just looks awful.
It just looks like a repeat of X-Men 3.
Well, and you've heard the leaked scripts and rumors that it basically is a repeat of X-Men 3. I don't know if it's any of that's true. I doubt it, but I can believe it.
I think parts of it are gone. Like, I doubt that they're going to repeat the mutant curing thing.
Yeah.
But definitely what they're doing with Jean, it's not accurate to the comics because, I mean, it was in the trailer. He's like, oh, I locked it away and yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then it's like, oh, Magneto's back for a 80th time. And he's putting on his mantle and being evil. And he's like, Charles, no more speeches. And it's just dumb. It's just bad.
And they're not in their costumes anymore.
No, you can't end X-Men Apocalypse like that and then revert back to these terrible costumes.
Well, they're not terrible. At least they actually have costumes this time. And they're not black.
True. At least they're yellow.
Yeah.
It's a step in the right direction, but the movie itself is 2 steps back, 1 step forward.
Yep, that's what it looks like.
Well, anyways, as Quicksilver, I would probably run directly at you, knowing that you'll try to power up some cards and throw them at me. I would be able to dodge them, even if you are able to maybe power up a card and throw it at me that slows me down or hits my legs. I still would maintain, most of my speed. And what I would try to do is get to you and not try to hit you. I would try to run as fast as I could, creating a vortex to suck all the oxygen out of the small area you are in and knock you out right away. I would go for the killing blow as fast as possible.
Yeah, and I think that this is going to be a very short fight. I think Quicksilver just has the edge. He's not as smart as Gambit. I think Gambit would probably try to energize some cards, lay them out in a very strategic manner so that you accidentally run into one like a trap. I know that he also he's got a staff, so he can energize his staff and use it. Can he energize himself? Does that hurt him?
No, he can't, because whatever he energizes explodes, I think.
Okay.
Except his staff, and I'm not sure why his staff doesn't.
Yeah. So, I mean, I could try energizing the staff and, twirling it around me, but I don't think there's much I can do. I think Quicksilver's going to have this.
No, and I would agree. I think even if you do, something you could try to do is try to trip me, right? That would be an easy thing to do with the staff, and maybe it would get me down enough for you to throw some cards at me. If we're around some cars, like in a parking lot, you could energize the stuff around you, like cars to explode, to try to slow me down. But all in all, I just don't think that your powers are able to keep up with a speedster.
Yeah, because I didn't see that coming.
Ah, nice. Well, this is actually one where we are in disagreement with the comics. It's only a few panels, so I'm not really sure how Gambit wins, but the Contest of Champions does say Gambit wins. So I'm assuming it's just part of voting. People were like, Gambit wins.
Yeah.
So the writers are like, crap. How are we going to make him win? Let's just not show it. So it's one panel.
Yeah.
Quicksilver's running. Gambit throws some cards at him. And then the next panel, it's Gambit's the winner. And Quicksilver's on the ground. So you're like, oh, okay.
And he would have been at the height of his popularity at this point. Because you said that's 99. So the X-Men animated show would have been on and probably just gone off at that point. And that made him incredibly popular. So I'm not surprised.
And I haven't really talked about this, but Contest of Champions 2, Caleb, as you know, unlike the first and third iterations of this series, it basically pits heroes against heroes. And there's this whole big story that goes along with it. But it's kind of the enemy is just trying to find out who's the best heroes on Earth. And you get your typical Captain America, Thor, Hulk, but you get some odd ones in there. And Gambit is one of those odd ones. And I think it has to do with his popularity.
Yeah.
So anyways, that means Quicksilver's won, which means I am back into competing with you 4 to Caleb, 3 to Zach.
All right.
Last 2. Wasp versus Hawkeye.
All right. Well, as Wasp, probably the very first thing I'm going to do is shrink down
Smart.
so that it's very hard for you to see me. And my goal is probably going to be to try to get in close and shoot you in the eyes to not permanently blind you, but take away your sight temporarily.
That is pretty smart. I'm imagining that I would start on top of a skyscraper, trying to listen for you and try to look out for you. And joke's on you because I have glasses. Yes, I'm the average Hawkeye, but I'm going with the Hawkeye with goggles. It's happening. So you miss. It just hits my goggles. And I take out my bug spray arrow that has an arrow with just a can of bug spray on it, and I shoot it at you.
You store that with your shark repellent?
I do. And it explodes and sprays bug spray everywhere to defeat you.
All right. Well, I'm not a bug, so that's not going to work.
I followed it up with a fire arrow that ignites all the air around you. Yeah, there you go.
So if you're on a building, then probably what I'm going to try to do is recover from whatever you just did. And if I can, try to get the drop on you where I come up super fast behind you. And then right before I get to you, I grow full size and knock you off the building.
That's good. That's good. So as I'm falling down from the building, I would shoot one of my grappling arrows, which I feel like you would wasp blast. And so I would catch myself for a little bit, but then I would still fall. And so I would use the famous arrow pillow, where I would shoot a pillow and land on it safely. Because he's done that in the comics. And then I would get pretty mad and tired of the situation. So I would be able to sharpshoot and catch you. And whether I used little arrow nets, whether I used little exploding arrows to daze you, I would probably just be on the lookout and as sneaky as you are, I would find a way where I am in a fairly open space, again, maybe the Times Square, so that I can see you coming and nail you from a distance.
So here's the problem. Wasps blaster thingies are not powerful at all.
No, they're not.
And Hawkeye has a finite number of arrows he's going to run out of.
True.
So either you're going to hit me with something, which you could totally do, or this is going to go into probably another stalemate where we just exhaust each other. Or the third option is Janet is a scientist. So if you're in Times Square, there's a really good chance that I could figure out some way to wire up all of those advertisements, all those screens, and maybe damage them so that either you shoot one of them with an arrow, and maybe this arrow has a tether on it, it's tied back to you and it electrocutes you, or maybe I'm able to bring them down and electrocute you that way, but somehow using my scientific intellect and those screens around to my advantage.
See, I could definitely see that happening, but I could also see Hawkeye intentionally trying to do that. So almost firing an electric arrow into a huge screen to overcharge it to send an electric field out, like a huge electric bubble that would zap me and definitely hurt, but it would zap you. And just because of how small you are and the density of you, it would hurt you even more. And to do something to basically grow you back into full size so that from there, I could trap you by either sticking you with arrow putty to make you stay in place or something to that extent.
Yeah, and honestly, I think Hawkeye probably has this one just because he's got more lethal skill set,
Yeah, and the comics agree with you, Caleb. I agree. I think Hawkeye does win this one. In the comics, this is a one-panel one. I believe all you see is the Wasp flying, and there's two arrows going towards her. And it's just, Hawkeye versus Wasp, winner Hawkeye. So they don't even show you a completion panel. They just show you a panel in fight, and Hawkeye wins.
Yeah.
All right, which means we are tied 4-4. So this is the winning battle. And the winning battle in New York City is the Scarlet Witch versus Cable.
Oh, easy. Mutants no more.
No! Well, that doesn't work because I'm from the future, and so I'm from a different time stream. So there are no more mutants in your time stream, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm still a mutant. Game on.
I just wait till you're in my time stream, and then I do it.
I'm never in your time stream. I'm always from the future, so I can never retroactively be in your time stream. So Game on.
All right. This is not even fair. This is like there is no way Cable could win this. Scarlet Witch is way too overpowered. I mean, Cable's got the shields that he can generate. He's got the technovirus, which doesn't help him all that much.
No.
He's not even super strong, is he?
You know, so Cable has some strength, but you're kind of missing this. Cable is an incredibly powerful mutant. So 1, he has the technology. 2, he has the genius. And 3, and I think this is where it'll really play a huge part in his battle against Scarlet Witch, is he has telekinesis, as well as some other, I don't know what you would call them, not telekinesis, but telepowers.
Telepath?
Yes. Yeah, he's also has some of that as well, right?
So he can read your mind.
A little bit. No, I don't know. It depends on the Cable you're talking about. But I would say, in general, he has telekinesis. I mean, he is a pretty powerful mutant. And so I would definitely, as far as like Scarlet Witch is concerned, I feel like I would have some type of contraption that would, I would throw them at your feet and, they would try to electrocute you, or they would try to inhibit the range or the power level of your abilities.
Yeah, but that means you have to know I'm coming.
Yes.
I don't think that was the parameters for this here little get together.
I would find you and do that, right? Because we're still talking about the mid-range Scarlet Witch. So we're not talking about House of M, Snap Her Fingers, All Mutants Are Gone Scarlet Witch. We're still talking about mid-range, which she is powerful, but she's not, like incredibly powerful. And so I feel like I would be able to get the drop on you either through some type of teleportation devices that Cable does have. And I would definitely use that for my advantage. I would try to, at first, rage a guerrilla warfare against you. So it'd be hit, run, hit, run, hit,
sure.
run.
I think that if you start doing that to me, what I would probably end up doing is, again, flying up into the sky at a range that it's going to be really hard for you to hit me with something where I have a good view of everything. And then once I find you, I will probably go in and try to get closer to you and use my powers, which is a lot of stuff.
Sure.
And probably try to probably the very first thing I would try is create like a magical air pocket bubble thing around your head to suffocate you, which I could totally see Cable breaking out of. And then probably my next goal would be to try to take some of the steel beams from the surrounding buildings and use them to kind of tie you up.
Okay, no, that's pretty good. I would say I do have telepathic abilities, so I'd be able to read your mind and know kind of what you are planning. And so as you are trying to, do both of those things, I would be kind of creating shields to block you out, or I would just allow you to do all of that, and I would create a techno shield that's just kind of around your head to just suffocate you.
I thought the shields have to be around you. I didn't think you could project them.
I would move a car right into your face.
Well, then I would blast something and split it in half. I'm in the air.
I think what I would ultimately try to do is, knowing that you're not a combat warrior, I would be able to bring you down somehow using some type of technology, throwing objects at you at extreme speeds from all around me where you couldn't concentrate both on blasting them and flying, where you would have to land. And ultimately, I would try to sneak up behind you to electrocute you, or honestly, I might even try to infect you with the technovirus.
Yeah, see, I just don't think Cable is fast enough to be able to pull off what you're saying to the degree that you would need to confuse or overwhelm the Scarlet Witch, especially even if I'm just 10 feet off the ground. I mean, you would have to throw things at me from a bunch of different angles for me to get disoriented, which means you're going to have to be running all over the place, and you're just not that fast. I mean, you might be slightly faster than the world's best athlete, maybe, but that's still not that fast.
No, but I feel like I could honestly face you head on, right? We're face to face. I would, try to shoot my gun at you. If you blasted it to pieces, then I would have some type of grenades I'd throw at you. You might, try to get those. You would blast me back, but I would be able to put up some shields, and I'd use my telekinesis to throw stuff at you, or my telepathy, I'd be able to use my environment while being able to be one step ahead of you, not only because I can read kind of your thoughts, but I can also, I'm a trained warrior. I'm a lot more strategic than you are, and so I would be very strategic in knowing how to take you down and how to do that.
I agree that you're a lot more strategic, but I also think from a sheer power level, Scarlet Witch is just far more powerful than Cable, and I don't know. I just don't think it's going to be as easy as you're making it out to be to confuse Scarlet Witch.
Sure, and you know what? You say you have the power level far more powerful. I would disagree. I would say you are somewhat more powerful than Cable is. Again, different iterations, but I don't see you being far more powerful, and I think your power level then is off-balanced by my advancement in technology and my strategic kind of implementation of that as well. And so I honestly think this could be a pretty evenly matched face-off that could go to either one of us.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I agree. But
I still think Cable wins.
It's hard to say. I'm going to argue for Scarlet Witch because that's my character. But I think this is probably even closer than the other ones we were having issues with. I mean, especially if Scarlet Witch can just fly up in the air 200 feet, there's not a whole lot you can do against that. I mean, you can shoot at her, but I'm pretty sure her shields can withstand bullets.
All right, so Caleb, in the comics, Scarlet Witch does win, but I'd put an asterisk by that. So in this Contest of Champions 2, Cable is actually winning. He's going to defeat her, but then it kind of becomes more of a balanced match, and then Scarlet Witch wins, and she wins because Cable's trying to tell her something. So, because I told you that the Contest of Champions kind of a ruse by these evil creatures or whatever, right? And so Caleb knows something's going on, but every hero's been infected by nanites, so they just want to kill each other, so they really don't know what's going on, but Cable kind of does. So it gets down to almost Cable's going to win, but he instead decides to tell Scarlet Witch something's going on, and Scarlet Witch then it takes that opportune time. But then, in some of it too, it looks like it's still a battle. So honestly, I think this is still undecided. Caleb, you have 4 points. I have 4 points. I think we need the help of our listeners to decide this one.
Funny you say that, because as we were sitting here, I texted your brother Blaine and said who would win. And you know what he said?
Nobody.
Scarlet Witch.
No, well, here's what you can do. Here's what we're going to do, all right? When this comes out, the day this comes out, Friday, or whenever you want to run it, Caleb, go on to Facebook, and do you know how to do the voting mechanism, a voting post?
I'm not sure. Why don't you do that for me?
Okay, we'll do a voting post to who would win, Scarlet Witch versus Cable, and we'll let all of you decide. You can either vote for Scarlet Witch, Caleb, or Cable, myself, whichever. And I would say go with, kind of what you think and explain it in the comments as well, as because we'd like to know kind of what your thoughts are on who would win.
Yeah, especially because there's so many different iterations of these characters. Be specific about which one you're talking about.
Well, Caleb, with that in mind, that kind of ends our Contest of Champions segment. Listeners, we would love to know if you like this. If you did, like I said, there's a Contest of Champions 3. We could do something like this again. There's also numerous battles that we didn't even get to. Some obscure ones from Contest of Champions, number one, but some really interesting ones that I didn't use just because it repeated heroes, but would be really interesting to talk about, such as the Invisible Woman versus Iron Fist, Colossus versus Iron Fist, Beast versus Spider-Man, the Human Torch versus Storm, Mr. Fantastic versus the Incredible Hulk, and one of my favorites that we might talk about later, Captain America versus the Black Panther. So some really good ones. So let us know if you want us to do another one of these, and we can dive into all the ones we've missed, as well as all the ones in the third iteration of this comic.
All right, Zach. Well, that was that, and this is this. It's time for What You Been Up To. So, Zach, what you been up to?
Well, Caleb, I've been up to reading Contest of Champions. And we just talked about that, so that's about it.
Oh, that's it? You haven't done anything else?
No, that's about it.
Nothing. You haven't watched any TV shows or anything?
Nope.
Wow.
I mean, and there's a reason I'm only on here twice a week. I'm either working on my first job, working at my second job, hanging out with my wife, or crying.
Yeah, that's what he does most of the time.
Yeah, that's what 90% of the time I'm not on here. I'm crying. I'm in my room.
Because he's not on here.
Yeah, because I'm not on here. But Caleb, what you been up to?
So, it's only been a couple of days since I've recorded, so I haven't had time to do a whole lot, but I've squeezed in as much as I can. Saturday, I went to go see a movie, and it was the first movie for the anime My Hero Academia.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I've seen posts about that.
Yeah, so they released it in theaters here. It was good. I liked it. I think that's, for most of it, I was like, this is good, but this could have just been done in the series. There's nothing in here that they couldn't do in the series until it got to the very end. And then I was like, oh, yeah, that's probably budget prohibitive for this series. So it was cool. There's some characters that I would love to see make their way into the actual canon of the show and the manga. I don't know if they will, but the way that they did it kind of felt like they would. And most of the time you can't do that because a lot of times when they're doing these shows, the manga is so far ahead.
Yeah.
But the manga is not that far ahead of the show and of the movie. So I think they could use this opportunity to introduce those characters, which would be really cool.
Wow, you've piqued my interest.
Yeah, and Zach, we've talked about it a little bit. I really think that you would like the show. I think you should check it out. It's about, for those of you that don't know, it's basically Japan's take on American superheroes. It's a kid that isn't born with powers when most people are. He suddenly gets powers, and he enrolls in a high school where you learn to be a hero. And it's really good. I would highly suggest you check it out. That's My Hero Academia. The other thing I've been doing is last night I went on a small comic reading binge because I am super behind on all my comics. I went to the comic store on Saturday, and I was like, man, I really need to catch up. So
80 comics later.
Right. I was on issue 3 of Amazing Spider-Man, the one right after Secret Wars, so 2015. And I read through issue 11, I think. So that's a small dent, but it's actually pretty good. I wasn't liking it at first. The first major story arc is about Zodiac. And
sure.
This is a storyline where they basically made Peter Parker Tony. He's got a massive company worldwide. So I wasn't really digging that. But that wrapped up, and the second storyline was all about Mr. Negative, which was cool.
Ooh, especially coming from the video game, right? Right,
exactly. That's what I was going to say. It was before the video game, probably before that was even announced. Mr. Negative, I mean. But it was good, and we've gone back more into the Zodiac story, but I'm enjoying it a lot more now. Up front, I think they were trying to make it too different. It was too much Tony Stark style, like gadgets for everything, and each issue was in a different continent, and it wasn't really connected, which is probably why I wasn't liking it. But there's new story developments going on, and it's pretty solid. So I know that ran until issue 32, until they changed the numbering, which I think became 7, maybe 89, which ran until 800, and then they relaunched it again. So I'm going to try to make it through those maybe in the next couple weeks.
I'm assuming they have a hardback of that released already, correct?
I don't know, because I don't look at the trade paperbacks all that often.
Okay. If they do, would you suggest picking this up? Yes or no?
Ooh. I can't suggest it until I finish more of it.
Sure.
Because the beginning was so rocky for me, I'm not sure. There's a lot of breadcrumbs that they've been leaving. that are leading somewhere. I'm not quite sure where yet. If those pay off, then yes, it would be worth getting.
All right, good to know.
All right, Zach. Well, I think that wraps it up for this week.
Yeah, I think it does.
And you know who... well, maybe we shouldn't say that.
No, say it. Say it.
You know who sometimes likes to wrap it up?
Nope. I don't.
You don't? Oh, okay.
Sailor Pool.
Sailor Pool. Taylor, I'm so sorry. We love you.
Oh, that's
Thank you.
awesome.
Thank you for doing our intro music. Taylor's a great guy. Go check him out at his website, taylorpoolmusic.com. That's TAYLORPOOLE music.com, and let him know that we sent you.
And Caleb, you know who hosts a bunch of other champions?
CNC Power Hour.
No, those guys are just nerds.
Oh, no,
Just kidding. They're champions. Go and check them out. They're usually on this show now, but they are wonderful people. They stream video games, Magic the Gathering throughout the week or on Sundays, sometimes various days. Sometimes Caleb's there, sometimes he's not, sometimes he's nowhere. But anyways, go ahead and check them out on Facebook or Twitch.
Yep, Twitch is their main area. And while you're at it, go check out our website, cuzwe'renerds.com, for all the goodies from the episodes. You can find everything there. Drop us a line, find out a little bit about us. If you would like to ask us any questions, if there's anything you'd like to see on the show, fill out the contact form. If you don't want to do that, you can also contact us at cuzwe'renerds@gmail.com. And yeah, it's a good place. Go check it out.
And remember to vote. Vote. If you're still listening to this now, go onto our Facebook page, Cuz We're Nerds, and vote if you want to see Cable or Scarlet Witch win.
Thanks for listening to Cuz We're Nerds. Stay up to date with all the nerdy news and podcast drops by following us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also leave us comments and feedback at cuzwe'renerds@gmail.com. That's CUZWERENERDS@gmail.com. And as always, if you enjoyed this podcast, we would love it if you would leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. Next week, it's time for a little dose of Venom. Will the legendary Spider-Man villain be done justice in Sony's first spin-off film? Will the lack of Spider-Man make sense? And who even thought this was a good idea? I mean, seriously, guys? Come on. Find out next week on Cuz We're Nerds. Stay nerdy.
The Contest of Champions. But then it's an anime. She come from not to come a lot of the time. And, you know, there's like the different heroes.
Yeah. And then the ending is all like sad. It's like konnichiwa.
As it's like heroes like dying on the ground, but then it's upbeat again. But then it's like it's like all the heroes like clash into one. Hero battle, contest of champion. That's a little racist. We should probably not cut that one out.
Well, I've been learning Japanese, so it's not racist if I say it.
No, it's not.
Contesto no champion.
Ooh, that's pretty good.
Thank you.
Dubs or subs? Or chubs?
Oh, dubs mostly. Oh boy, this is going to be an interesting one.
The bruiser. All right, and that's it. I'm killing it.
All right.
3, 2, 1.